So hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of Fight Chat Friday with TKD Coach Academy. So we are Adrian Byrne and Richie Ford, and every Friday we look to bring you the very best of Taekwondo competition, performance and coaching. And if that sounds like a conversation you'd like to get involved in, then hit the like button, subscribe to this channel, and by all means hit the bell button so that you're notified every Friday when we have a new video to share with you. So today we were inspired to take on a little bit of a challenge that was set by Stu Armstrong of the Talent Equation podcast. And what he asked in his podcast or short YouTube clip was, could we, for the month of December, not use any drills? Could we perhaps, anytime we used a drill, use the word drill, mention drill, make a donation to charity in order to do something productive and festive? And we want to go through why that's a challenge that might be worth considering, why maybe this December for us is not the time to tackle that challenge, and why we might have to look at it sometime in the new year, and what that means in terms of us training right now in Ireland and worldwide under the restrictions of COVID-19. So we will give you a little bit of a link to that video, so it will be in the notes below, and we should be able to include the card there so you can click on over that side, or maybe over that side, I don't know, we'll figure it out afterwards. So Richie, what did you think of that clip? So long time listener to Talent Equation podcast anyway, and I would recommend if people haven't jumped on that ship, go give it a listen.
Yeah, fantastic episode. Fantastic podcast. And Stu is big on this idea of trying to get rid of drills, and he has a famous kind of a slogan of war on drills. So it's something that's really a debatable topic right now, and it's something, of course, that we discuss a lot on this channel of how to kind of produce a little more representative practice and some more live situations and things like that. Of course, at the moment, it's a bit tricky with COVID, because anybody who can train, particularly for us in Ireland, some countries are in a different boat, but in Ireland, we have to train in pods of one, which means it's pretty much solo training. So anything that we can do live and with a live partner is very much limited and restricted at the moment. So for now, drills are almost our friend in terms of it's what we can do.
Drills are our best friend right now, yeah.
Right now, yeah. So this December is probably not the best one, as you said, for us to touch on this. But of course, it's fantastic to be able to do some sort of training and even set some boundaries in terms of building some good foundations for the future going ahead, to build up into these more live situations, to pull back from the drills and things like that. So I think it will be very useful to first touch on the idea of what is a drill and why drills are particularly relevant for our sport, because a lot of people in other sports, particularly field sports, they have a different way of looking at it. Whereas combat sports traditionally were very drill dominant and drill heavy. So I think that would be the first little thing we can discuss in terms of what is a drill and what is isolation practice, and just give people a bit more context for the rest of the discussion that we have here.
Yeah, and I mean, it's one of those things where once you see drills, it's going to be immediately like, yeah, of course, I know what that is. That's what we do. That's the, that's a huge part of our training. And anyone who's kind of come through Taekwondo traditionally over years and years and years has encountered sparring drills. And we've deliberately picked clips from some of the world's top coaches and athletes here. You know, there are some super coaches involved in these. So this isn't us slamming them for doing drills. This is a case of us saying, right, what does a drill give you and offer you versus what doesn't it give you and offer you? And why would we espouse something like a challenge like a no drill December or a DrillDember or whatever you tried to call it? And so in getting to what a drill is, like the first thing you mentioned is isolation. So do you want to kind of quickly talk through what isolation means in this context?
Yeah, so generally when you're trying to build skills, we start off, and what most people do is they build it in isolation. So you build it in just repeating the pattern over and over and over again.
Yeah.
And it's in isolation in terms of generally it's not with a live partner where you need to make active decisions.
Yes.
Where you need to adjust like distance between your opponent, the timing of when to throw the shot and things like this. So it's very much a set pattern, and you just repeat this as in repetition, repetition, repetition. And of course, we all know the phrase of drillers make killers and like muscle memory and all these phrases. But isolation training is essentially just having everything without the decision making and without the, I guess, the active thought process of how to do it, when to do it, and things like that. So the isolation is very much at the foundation level of the skill acquisition pyramid.
Yeah. So let's kind of dig into that one then a little bit in terms of there's a reason it's pervasive. There's there are many reasons it's pervasive. There are reasons that to some degree we all use drill in classes, and it's part of a continuum. So there's a point in the representativeness continuum where a drill is not very representative of the situation you're going to encounter in sparring. But as you advance it, progress it, introduce opposition, introduce decision making, introduce constraints, make it more representative, it eventually becomes something that's quite like sparring. But as
in the resistance also is quite limited, isn't it?
Yeah.
As in, like, everybody can easily go through that repetition without any kind of any hindrance of any sort. As in, the resistance against you is very, very limited. It's very easy to go through.
You're not under psychological stress. You're under physical stress, and that could be one of the advantages that we can bring back to drills. But the psychological stress of it is more limited. And although if you pick some of the ones where there's a coach over you with, and in your ear as you go through it, or your partner on the pads really gets into it and moves with you and creates, drama, there's some more representativeness. But again, in what we're calling drill, there's no active decision-making process. One of the things I do want to call out there is also the choice reaction kind of thing. And a very, very common thing you'll see. And, some of Oleg's drills, or we say not drills, some of Oleg's videos that you'll sometimes see on Instagram or from seminars, Thomas Barada, Grandmaster Boss, all of these people, everyone has one where you have one person in the ring and they're reacting to the pads being put in front of them. Sometimes from a preset number of techniques, sometimes just free reacting. And it feels like it's more representative. But really what it is a choice reaction conditioning exercise. And has value, not knocking it, but it's not what we would consider to be a game or a constraints-led approach to teaching sparring. The representativeness to the actual spar is still quite limited. So if it's a 1 to 10 scale, we're still sitting at about a 3-4 rather than an 8-9. So and
just to touch on that as well, Adrian, when you say game, like sometimes people get blurred lines here in this concept. When we talk game, it means like a sparring contest almost, as in you have an objective to complete and I have an objective to complete, not as a game, as in like people think a game of tag or a game of like in terms of a fun process. Of course, this is very much engaging as well and very fun for students to partake in.
Yeah.
But the idea of the game here is the game of basketball, the game of soccer. One person or one team has an objective and so does the other team, where you're not leaving the other person have a go, you have a go, I have a go, you have a go. And that's kind of what that's kind of more of the isolation training that we touched on earlier.
And that brings us to another kind of difference between drill and the game or the constraint, where there is no element of strategy or tactics. And when we have to layer strategy and tactics over what we're doing in order to achieve a goal or an objective, then we get into something that's more representative of the sparring match. Whereas drill will typically not have tactics or strategy. It's pre-prescribed. There's only either a limited set of reactions, like the choice reaction kind of scenario, or you do what it says on the tin. Faster is better, harder is better, stronger, in that kind of sense. So let's jump a little bit and say, well, why are drills our best friend this December? And again, this isn't hitting back at Stuart. This is saying, great idea, Stuart. Love the concept. This is why we're not going to do it in Ireland this December. And maybe there's a lot of people in the rest of the world who are in the same situation as us, where you can train. Maybe it's on your own, like we have, where you can't have another person within 2 meters of you. So we're definitely doing nothing representative. But maybe you have pods and you can train with a small group of people, or maybe you can have, I don't know what the situation is in other countries. But if you're in a position where maybe you can't do what you would usually do, maybe drills are your best friend this December. So maybe we'll talk about what drills do that is advantageous, is good, is helpful to us, and what we can gain from them. So,
And I think that's a great segue to talk about context.
yeah,
Because you like, these are things that people put on social media, and because nowadays people are very active on social media, they put a lot of their drills and exercises on social media. Of course, they're not going to be putting stuff. They put things that are visually pleasing to people.
yeah,
And all of this stuff is very visually appeasing, and it's something that you can scroll through, you'll watch, and it's enjoyable to watch. But like, when you become to the real representative stuff and live stuff, all of these top level ITF guys, they're doing their sparring training and their constrained spars and all of this stuff as well.
yes.
But that's just not something that you share on social media, because
it doesn't look as good.
Not as exciting. It doesn't look as exciting. It's a bit messier. And so of course all of these top level guys in ITF, they know this.
Yeah.
But some people who are maybe not in the know-how, and they don't understand the whole idea of skill acquisition so much, they think that this is the only way to train, and this is the answer to training. So I think this is a great segue to really talk about context is key here. And even looking at some of the exercises we have here, it's not just about technique per se. It's like, for example, this one is a great one.
Yeah.
This is also working on leg strength, which is a massive part of ITF Taekwondo training. And it's a very, very, very valuable asset to be able to have strong legs to carry your kicks into positions. Whereas this technique is our drill, we say, is not just about sparring. Of course, the feet here, which is an important motor skill that's required. And that's very important. Like for this one, for example, maybe they're working on cardio and interval training. So I think the context is key. And that's very, very important for people to think about when they're looking at these people's clips.
Yeah, definitely. So again, I'll steal your segue there, and we're talking about cardio, interval training, coordination, leg strength. You know, we can build all of these things in a very Taekwondo specific context using these kind of drills. And that's one of the disadvantages of a representative game design constrained led spar, something like that. You can't control intensity as well. You can't as easily get a heart rate to a particular zone and keep it there. You can't measure activity and recovery so well. So things like explosive intervals or repeats, as we call them, interval training, cardio within a particular heart rate threshold, that's not doable with something where the decision making and where both people can act when they want, because maybe you recognize the person is getting tired. So what do? Well, you increase your intensity and you finish them off. So
and vice versa. Maybe you're feeling it on the other side and you're like, all right, maybe I won't go for that shot because you're just a little bit tired.
Yeah,
exactly. So you can
drills
just
let you challenge on the physical level with way more control. And rather than being on an assault bike or on a rower or on a running fartleks, you're doing it in a Taekwondo specific context because you're kicking, you're punching, you're staying in a sparring stance, you're moving. So that's a huge advantage that drill has from a conditioning perspective over, we'll say, some of the more traditional conditioning methods like getting out, running the roads, jumping rope, or doing anything that way. So all of these drill designs from a conditioning for sparring point of view are definitely better than the concept of a generic, kind of training program that's using a different modality to achieve the same fitness goals.
Absolutely.
So the next bit then was looking at, say, developing the technique itself in terms of, like, another type of drill that would be used would be rhythm drills. And most of these exercises, especially the first one from Master Van Immortals Club, so this kind of one, has a rhythm to it. And the goal, especially if you start to link them together, becomes that it challenges your footwork, your recovery, your ability to sustain output. And that becomes a rhythm drill and something that you can do at a lower intensity for cardiovascular benefits. Or you do it in an explosive way with a short number of repeats in 8 to 12 seconds, and you allow a longer recovery, and then it can be done as a kind of a high intensity interval type training or a Tabata training type protocol. So the very same exercise in a drill can be taught one way with rhythmic repetition to learn the exercise and to build a cardio base. And then you can use the same exercise with explosive repetition and longer breaks to build the anaerobic threshold and push a different level of fitness. So,
and especially if you're looking for that type of training, which could be very relevant now, it's actually something that I'm working with some of my guys at the moment, is building that cardio base, because it's something that's that we can do at the moment. Although we're not using pads and things, we can still do it like throwing techniques almost in solo, which we would never do generally, but right now, which we will get to later, is something which has become very relevant. But it's something to touch on, that is when you're looking to build cardio and develop that, you should probably use techniques and almost motor patterns you're quite comfortable with already. It shouldn't be something that's new. And that's something that's very relevant, because if you go in with lots of new techniques, you're not going to be able, like you said a while ago, you can't really control the intensity so much, because you're still trying to figure out where your feet go, where your body position goes. So try to use techniques that you're quite comfortable with already, and motor patterns that you're quite comfortable if you're looking at this from a cardio perspective.
Yeah, definitely. That makes a lot of sense. And then when it comes to the explosive repeats, if it's not something that you can comfortably do at speed, you can't get the intensity high enough. So there is a progression or a hierarchy there. So taking again the concept of the drills and taking out the we say pure development of fitness side of things, we're in a situation now where, as you said, you're solo. Maybe you, if you're lucky, you have a punch bag, or a standing bag. So for people who are stuck like us at the moment, that is absolutely the best, most representative thing that you can do. So what are the challenges that we can set ourselves? What kind of things can we do in drills using just a freestanding bag, a punch bag, a paddle attached to a wall, whatever it is that you've got? Well, yeah, it comes right back down to these kind of drilled activities, and the principles are going to be, what techniques can I apply in as representative a combination as possible to what we're going to see in sparring, or if the concept is to challenge rhythm, balance, recovery, you might take some of like Master Yedu's style of drills, where like the H drills and so on, where you've got a lot of forwards and backwards stepping, change the legs, foot to foot, all of those different kinds of recoveries, where the whole concept is to be off balance and, or to have your balance challenged the whole way through the exercise. So you're having to find a way to throw the kick from a very balanced stance, or the hand techniques from a very balanced stance, transition from foot to hand to foot, those kind of things. And I think you get some really nice examples of it even in some of the ones that we had with like Vitali, for example, with the kicks into the back fist, into the kicks, those kind of transitional ones. These are things that you can do where having a live opponent isn't necessarily a huge add, and it, why not? Let's do those things now.
Yeah, and I think just to touch on that as well is the whole idea of, with us at the moment being almost solo, we can't represent sparring, because what is sparring? It's you against another live opponent. And if we're training by ourselves, that gets rid of that completely. So I think this is where the sub skills become something that we can really focus on. Like you said, the transition of footwork and things like your physical development. So as we touched on, your cardio, your flexibility training, maybe not in terms of drills, but a bit more isolation training rather than constraints. Of course, we can use constraints as well, because like constraint training isn't specific in terms of sparring, as in you can use constraints to work on your flexibility in terms of you're constraining a particular action for an action to happen. But again, it's very, very difficult for us at the moment, because not only are we limited to pods of one, but we also can't share equipment. We can't use a lot of the equipment that we have in the gym and the hall. So like the constraints, it really requires a lot of creativity, and it becomes difficult to use right now.
Yeah, but I mean, we still have the idea of, you can practice your back kick next to a wall, so the knees have to stay close. You can have a blitz starting from a knee on the ground, or with a resistance band on, or something like that. So you can use overspeed and resistance training as well. These are things we can still do. So if you have your standing bag and you loop your band over it, you can back away from the bag and use the overspeed of the pull to the bag to get you in there. You know, you can work it the opposite way if you want to challenge your standing leg for push off and attach your band back to a bar or wall, whatever, and push there. And I think the goal is, let's have it being purposeful. So if we're going to have those drills, let's look at the principles of physical fitness and the principles of like athletic development and see what is it we're trying to do. So if rather than just having, I'm going to kick, so I'll do something like what I do in sparring and I'll do it. It's making conscious decisions around what am I actually trying to get better at when we do these drills. Is it a physical dimension? So am I looking to improve my my energy systems, whether that's, you know, creatine, phosphate, aerobic, anaerobic? Am I actually looking to increase my coordination? Do I want to increase my recovery time? Am I working on my anaerobic threshold? Am I actually trying to enhance my ability to disguise, like have a universal chamber and disguise, whether it's a side kick, turning kick, hook kick? Am I looking at my push off and making sure I don't telegraph? And, you know, depending on what we're actually trying to do, we can then make it specific, we can overload it, we can, you know, make sure that we have some recovery and super compensation and we can adapt to it, and then we can go again. Like, and I mean, I think it's just being specific about what you're actually looking for, I think.
Yeah, and at the moment for us, it's fantastic that we have this opportunity. For a long time, we weren't able to train, and we were very limited in what we could do. So now even having these drills and being able to do something is fantastic. But I think it's very, very important to understand that there is a gulf there between all of this isolation work and then building the bridge to get to this representative. So once we can get back to this regular type of training, and hopefully once the lockdowns and COVID and all of these restrictions kind of reduce a little bit, it's very important to understand what comes next and how to build the bridges to go from these isolation movement patterns and skills to building them into more live and representative scenarios. So like that was what we were touching on earlier in terms of isolation. And then that idea of added resistance and building the bridges to become a little bit more representative and a little bit more live.
So you know, this is, as you said, the bridge. So when we're looking at and reasons why you don't share all this stuff on Instagram is because there will be imperfect reps. It won't always work.
Absolutely, it will be messy, as we see here. Like this is actually one of the exercises that I do in my own school. So we start off practicing the technique of back kick, just getting comfortable with the motor pattern. And then we try to make it a bit more live. Look at the decisions being made here. The distance is changing. The timing is changing. The pressure is adjusting. The spacing is different. And all of these things, and this is it, just an isolation practice. Quite simple, working on that step, using the constraint of a hoop to just get the idea of pulling that foot back to create space. But then when you get a live opponent, it becomes so much more difficult. And this is where we're talking about that added resistance. And you can see here, like it's much more difficult. Dara here, one of my students, he's really thinking of what needs to be done. He's making decisions. He's thinking. But very, very important is I also have the person who's on the pad. They're not just like static and standing there. They have an objective of their own. So she's trying to actively make contact with that pad on the person. And that gives her a job. So she's trying to actively push the pace, look to get her footwork in the correct position to attack. And then both sides are working, so it becomes a little bit more live. So I'd like to call this a semi-live situation. And then we would step that up again to become a bit more representative in a sparring environment where we can constrain for that. At the moment, of course, we can't even do this type of training. So we're even restricted more again. So it's building up to that kind of scenario.
So I think where we're getting to with this one is that from Stu Armstrong and the Talent Equation podcast, we acknowledge the challenge, and we will definitely take on that challenge.
We're definitely all on board.
Some month next year when we can all actually train together, we are going to take on that challenge. Right now, we are going to drill all December, which is basically what we're going to do. We're going to try and make sure that they're quality drills, that they have a purpose behind them, that we know what it is that we're trying to improve and focus on, and whether that is building an aerobic capacity, working on the balance, recovery, and continuation of skills, whether it's, you know, a technical focus a physical focus, whatever it happens to be, we're going to make sure that our drills have purpose while not being representative this December. So
yeah, and like this is something that's very important. That this is one of the reasons why we're sharing our ideas and our philosophies on this channel as well. It's to help people understand the why, and the why is king. Once we understand what we're doing, and more importantly why we're doing it, then you can adjust and you can make things fit for particular situations based like right now. So that's very, very important. And it's one of the reasons why we have the channel here is to help people understand the why and the deeper meaning and philosophy behind everything we're doing. And then there's no like magic drill or magic anything. It's just how you apply that to your specific context that you want to achieve then.
Definitely. And again, that was just something we'd posted many times on Instagram, because we've had too many opportunities these last 8 months.
Yeah.
But, it is a case of, if what you can do in your physical training is limited because of the interaction with other people, these are still the checklist of things you can do. You can work on your stretching, your leg strength anywhere. You can work on your physical fitness at home or using the environment about you. You can work on building your mental skills, study, learn, enhance your tactical knowledge, and read up on whatever interests you, because all of that will stand to you long term. So keep doing it, I think, is the quiz there.
Absolutely. And we have lots of videos on our channel. So if you go onto our channel, TKD Coach Academy on YouTube, there's plenty of videos. Adrian's done 2 fantastic videos on exercises and things you can do like in terms of a solo basis at home to keep progressing your training, in terms of like plyometric training, technical training for patterns, speed training, leg strength, stretching. So we have plenty of things there that you can still use to apply if you're on your own and you're looking to still progress your training.
Definitely. So I think that brings us to the end of this Friday. And again, definitely say to people, if you have a suggestion for us, if you have a match you'd like us to review or comment on, if you'd have a suggestion for a debate or a topic for Fight Chat Friday, we'd love to hear from you either in the comments below or on our social media. So that's me for Friday.
So yeah, that's it. So be sure and check us out on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok as well. We're pretty active there for more frequent and short form content, and you'll definitely pick up some ideas there as well. So we're trying to get busy in the moment with the current year we've had, put out lots of content, help people as much as we can around the world, and hopefully it's of value to a lot of people.
All right, we'll see you next Friday.
See you then. Thank you.